Chapter 2353 Non-Existent Matter 1. Zhang Yi's reaction was indifferent. Oh, that's pretty impressive. He doesn't understand science, so what's the point of talking to him? New materials? There's definitely plenty on the moon, so what's the big deal? But the next moment, Yang Xinxin's voice rang in his ears. Is he talking about new substances? Elemental substances. As soon as she finished speaking, Yang Xinxin appeared from the shadows. Professor Da Vinci ignored everyone else. In his eyes, only Yang Xinxin was qualified to discuss this topic with him. The two chattered for a while, mentioning things like the periodic table, great historical discoveries, and revolutionary concepts in the field of chemistry. Zhang Yi felt drowsy, and in the end, Yang Xinxin pulled Professor Da Vinci into Zhang Yi's shadow to study him. Zhang Yi didn't take the matter too seriously. All he was thinking about was finding the spark as soon as possible and returning to report back. After a brief battle, the others, alert to their surroundings and finding no new threats, relaxed their guards slightly. Let's go. Let's keep going. The strange tree-like creature was just a minor incident. It was a creature transformed from a corrupted Lunarian. After Zhang Yi cut off the main trunk at the entrance, the rest of the journey became much quieter. What Zhang Yi didn't know was that over the long years, a large number of moon people who entered this place were devoured by this giant strange tree and transformed into part of it. The group continued to advance in formation, carefully exploring any possible traces left by the burning bones. After traveling for a short while, a shadow warrior suddenly stopped, and a deep voice reached everyone's ears. Report, an anomaly has been detected. Everyone quickly moved closer, because if they were even a little too far away, their vision would be obscured by the black mist. As they approached, they saw what appeared to be a person lying at the foot of a strange rock, though the person was shrouded in mist and their features were not clearly visible. Daolon immediately gave a wink to the shadow warrior and the other person next to him. Without hesitation, the two shadow warriors cautiously approached that direction, one on the left and one on the right. When they passed through the black mist and arrived at the strange rock, Zhang Yi and the others suddenly felt a strong energy fluctuation coming towards them. Something exploded from within the shadows, and the intense energy surge instantly reduced the two shadow warriors to ashes. Zhang Yi stood still, unmoved. The myriad phenomena absorbed the energy fluctuations, leaving him unaffected in the slightest. Daolan's pupils contracted sharply, revealing an angry expression. That despicable traitor actually knew we were coming and set a trap here. The traitor he was referring to was, of course, Burning Bone, who had kidnapped Meteor. Zhang Yi's eyes were strange. That traitor, Burning Bones, had actually managed to steal the flame of the Radiant Moon Empire. It seems that guy named Burning Bones is not simple. But the fact that the other party deliberately set a trap shows that he must still be alive. This is a good thing. This level of trap is not enough to harm us, Saladin said calmly, but soon he could no longer maintain that composure, because that burst of energy was just a key. After the explosion, it was as if a domino effect had been triggered. Behind the humanoid corpse, a small hill collapsed. Boom! A violent tremor came from afar. A Templar knight stepped forward, exhaling a fierce storm that dispersed the fog before him. Everything before their eyes finally became clear, but the expressions of everyone who saw this scene changed. Because they saw, in the endless black fog, in a place where visibility was poor, towering, majestic black peaks loomed. And rolling down from the endless darkness were one after another hideous and terrifying gray-white skeletons. Bone Burner, that guy. Daolon angrily cursed, never expecting that Burning Bones would leave them with such a huge problem. Endless skeletons rolled down from the massive mountain peaks. The sheer number of corpses piled up was astonishing. These are the remains of countless Lunarians who, over billions of years, either strayed into the dark sun forest or were banished there for other reasons. No one knew what was so strange about these skeletons, so their first reaction was to back away. Several Lunarian warriors, led by Han Yong, fearlessly charged forward, their weapons unleashing beams of energy that struck several enormous heads. Those heads looked completely different from human heads, so distorted that you could barely make out that they had facial features. If you didn't look closely, you might even think they were just white boulders. Boom! Several heads were blown to pieces, and wisps of black smoke drifted out from them. The wisp of smoke touched several Lunarian warriors, and in an instant, their combat uniforms began to decay and turn to ashes. After their bodies came into contact with the blue smoke, they began to turn black rapidly. They desperately channeled their supernatural energy into their bodies, trying to resist the invasion of this dark power. Strangely, there was no pain. Instead, my body felt relaxed, as if I was experiencing some kind of extreme pleasure. They stood there, stunned, and no one knew what had happened to them. After a while, they turned around and looked at the crowd, their eyes burning with a frenzied red light. So that's how it is. So-called mental pollution is actually so enjoyable. Ha ha ha. You should join us. The Lunarian warrior, whose entire body was completely stained black, grinned and charged towards the group without any fear. Daolon swept her long sword out, and the flames instantly incinerated them. But the overwhelming white bones were getting closer and closer to everyone. Don't touch these skulls. They contain substances that can contaminate people. Get out of here. With the example of the 4 mutated Lunarian warriors before them, the group that originally wanted to launch an attack dared not make a move and quickly ran back. In the shadows, Professor Leonardo da Vinci and Yang Xinshin began their research on the special substance. Yang Xinshin called Lu Karen over. Combustible materials are your area of expertise. Come and take a look at what this is. On a material level, Lu Karen is an expert and Yang Xinshin doesn't want to waste any time on him. Lu Karen walked over and placed her hands on the black, strange tree debris that had been cut off. Transformation of nothingness. All material elements will be revealed under her power and can be perfectly replicated. This time, however, after experiencing the material structure within, she was so surprised that she couldn't speak. This thing doesn't belong to this world at all. Chapter 2354 Non-Existent Matter 2. As soon as Lu Karen spoke, both Professor Da Vinci and Yang Xinshin showed expressions of confusion and shock. Combustible? What do you mean by that? Yang Xinshin stared at Lu Karen and asked, a substance that doesn't exist in this world? Does it really exist for you? Everything in this world conforms to the rules of the periodic table and is composed of the smallest particles according to certain rules. Even artificially synthesized new substances will not deviate from these laws. For example, Lu Karen, once she can change the microstructure, can even transform molecules in the air into gold. Lu Karen took a deep breath, staring at the black branch, her eyes surging with emotion. Her worldview was completely shattered by this piece of tree branch. I can modify the structure of matter, but I can only change its structure. They need to be composed of quarks, with the most basic particles. I can only disassemble and reconstruct them, but I cannot change their essence. It's just like molding clay into different shapes. But this thing... She pointed to the black tree branch in front of her. It doesn't even have the most basic particles in this world. How can I disassemble and reconstruct it? Professor Leonardo da Vinci and Yang Xinshin were shocked. Even someone as intelligent and composed as them could hardly imagine that such a substance would be discovered on the moon. Is it matter that doesn't exist in the material world? What does it look like? Professor Leonardo da Vinci pressed for an answer. It's like a hazy fog, with no tiny particles at all. That's impossible. Professor Leonardo da Vinci immediately said, even a hazy fog should contain the smallest particles. Could it be that it is a single entity? Lu Karen shook her head. It's hard for me to explain to you clearly. It's like a void, nothing at all, or it's a kind of radiant light and shadow of energy. I can see it, I can feel its presence, but I can't dismantle it. Humanity still has a long way to go in understanding everything in the microscopic world. Explaining it with common sense is completely futile. Professor Da Vinci, Yang Xinshin, and Lu Karen looked at each other in bewilderment, but at the same time they became excited, their eyes gleaming. This must be influenced by Samel. Perhaps we can redefine this world. Yang Xinshin frowned slightly and murmured, "Is there really a substance in this world that isn't composed of microscopic particles?" Although Yang Xinshin felt that Zhang Yi couldn't be of much help, she still told Zhang Yi the news. Zhang Yi was currently being pursued by the Sea of Skeletons. He was in the air, protected by all things in the universe, so he didn't have to worry about being contaminated. A superhuman with wind attributes stirs up a gale to blow away a large number of skeletons and resist the erosion of the dark air currents. Upon hearing Yang Xinshin's words, Zhang Yi asked curiously, "A substance that doesn't exist in this world?" Suddenly, the words spoken by the information coordinator's thought entity back in Tianyu Palace flashed through his mind. The material world is originally nothingness, a void. There are no planets, no life, and no humans. Everything you see is an illusion. Their existence is like code in a computer, visible but intangible. Zhang Yi was silent for a moment, then said, "Could what you're talking about be a manifestation of energy in the material world itself?" Upon hearing Zhang Yi's words, Yang Xinshin's expression changed drastically, as if she had been enlightened. The energy manifestations of the material world itself. The universe itself is nothingness. It was the creator, Kagago, who shaped everything with his own energy. All matter is a manifestation of the force field interaction between energies. However, people have never thought about this question. That is, before Kagago discovered this universe, it already existed, and it also had its own energy and material manifestations. Even nothingness is a form of existence. Yang Xinshin told Professor Da Vinci and Luke Heron about Zhang Yi's idea. The three of them looked at each other and decided to put their hearts into continuing the research. Perhaps Drucker, the giant god Samel, has already come a long way in researching the true nature of this universe. A sea of skeletons poured in, seemingly alive, chasing after Zhang Yi and the others. When they were very close, a large number of skeletons suddenly spewed out thick black gas from the cracks in their bones. This black aura was incredibly fierce, and what was most terrifying was that it weakened the effects of attacks from various other energies. Some people tried to blow them away with a storm, but the gale formed by the strange energy was slowly infected by the black smoke after it came into contact with it. Zhang Yi had a sudden realization. This familiar feeling is actually antimatter. Everything in the material world that comes into contact with it will be annihilated. Odin disregarded everything and unleashed an eternal spear. The massive spear crashed into the sea of skeletons, instantly causing a violent explosion. Thick black smoke billowed into the sky, engulfing them. Damn it, supernatural attacks don't seem to be able to solve these problems. Odin's expression changed drastically. Gu Chung and Dao Lan, among others, wore serious expressions. If the Dark Sun Forest were so simple, it wouldn't have become a forbidden area for the Moon people. They were helpless against this strange energy and could only desperately flee. Zhang Yi, however, looked thoughtful. He raised his right hand, and a huge black hole slowly unfolded behind him. It was extreme darkness, even surpassing the black smoke of the Dark Sun Forest. Dark realm, drifting with the current. Thick, viscous black substance surged forth from the void behind him, transforming into a black, gelatinous river that swept forward. The moment the dark power came into contact with the black smoke, it completely swallowed it up. Upon seeing this, everyone's eyes showed expressions of shock and bewilderment. Why can the power of chaos work on them? Zhang Yi recalled the words Shi Yuan had said when she saw him, and he already knew what was going on. The energy form of the sin of wrath, Samel, is the antimatter that is the opposite of the entire universe. No, where is the opposite of the universe? Perhaps that was the original matter of the entire universe. Because everything visible to the naked eye is created by Kagago's energy. This is why, no matter how strong the Lunarians are, they cannot resist the erosion of this power. It's like a drop of ink falling into clear water, which can turn the whole thing black. A smile appeared on Zhang Yi's lips. He made the right choice coming to this place. Chapter 2355 Non-Existent Matter 3 No need to run away. I know how to deal with these troublesome black mists. Zhang Yi addressed the crowd, explaining that he had used his dark realm flow ability to summon a large amount of antimatter from the void. Compared to the black smoke emanating from these skulls, his dark matter energy was much purer. It's less about devouring and more about fusion. After absorbing the black smoke, Zhang Yi's power actually became even stronger. Boom! The enormous black river, like a giant dragon, stretched for over 10 kilometers, spiraling and protecting everyone in its center. All the black smoke that touched the Dark Realm River was absorbed by Zhang Yi without exception. His power grew stronger, and at the same time, a suspicion in his heart began to become a reality. Drawing upon the power of the universe itself can also make you stronger. Killing and devouring is not the only path. No wonder the legendary Drucker people ate everything, even the earth and rivers. At the very least, Samuel is aligned with his path. The crisis facing the human alliance was temporarily averted. They were amazed by Zhang Yi's methods, but also had some doubts and questions in their hearts. Even a powerful figure like King Arthur, a black archbishop, could not produce such an effect with his attacks. Chaos, what exactly have you done? King Arthur asked with great curiosity. Zhang Yi absorbed a large amount of black smoke, and this fundamental improvement in energy attributes caused his superpower index to increase rapidly. In the blink of an eye, his ability index increased by a full 1,000 points. Given his current strength, he might need to kill a white bishop-level inhuman to accomplish this. He looked at the entire Dark Sun Forest, his eyes sparkling as if he had discovered a huge treasure. Druck the giant Samuel, an ancient god whose power originated from the same source as his, brought him such a huge boost simply from the overflow of his spiritual power while he was asleep. Oh, it's nothing. It's just that my abilities are somewhat restrained in this place, Zhang Yi said calmly. Upon hearing this, Gucheng, Daolon, and the other moon warriors showed expressions of immense excitement. That's wonderful. It was definitely the right decision to come here with you. The two entered the Dark Sun Forest with the mindset of certain death, and did not even have much hope for Zhang Yi and his companions. It was only out of necessity that I had to try it. However, Zhang Yi's demonstrated abilities have given them new hope. If the Dark Sun Forest only contains the spiritual power of these Samuel, then it poses no threat to me at all. On the contrary, it is an excellent treasure trove. Zhang Yi raised his head, intending to continue deeper into the Dark Sun Forest to thoroughly absorb the black mist, when he saw something different. He absorbed a large amount of the black mist and was able to see the enormous mountain peak before him clearly. And on the hilltop, a person sat like a withered stone. He had been there all along. When he first saw it, he only thought it was part of the mountain. There it was, quietly observing all the intruders. He was dressed entirely in black, so dark that it was difficult to see his face clearly. He only gave the impression of being a simple ink painting. His body and facial features radiated outwards, making it difficult to discern his face. Only his head resembled that of some kind of bird. What is that thing? Zhang Yi shouted in a deep voice. Everyone followed Zhang Yi's gaze and saw the strange figure sitting upright on the hilltop. King Arthur raised his sword. So, everything that just happened was his doing? When Daolon saw him, her expression suddenly changed. He is mad tyrant. Zhang Yi and the others suddenly looked at him. You know that guy? Daolon gripped her sword tightly. 500 years ago, I was a shadow warrior who fled into the Dark Sun Forest after failing to attack the then 7th priest, Lord Xianyu Fei Ming. I can't believe he's still alive. The lifespan of the Moon people is extremely long, with some living over 1,000 years. The fact that this tyrant dared to attack the Black Moon priest, the holder of the highest power in the Dark Moon Empire, shows that he himself is extremely powerful. Zhang Yi and the others cautiously looked up at the mountain. The mad owl slowly opened his eyes, which were more like white holes in the chaotic black shadow than eyes. His eyes were fixed on Zhang Yi, a hint of surprise in them, before he slowly stood up. This appearance and physique. Are they from Earth? A muffled sound came from his throat, reaching the ears of Zhang Yi and the others. No matter who you are, once you've arrived here, join the glorious evolution. After saying this, Guang Xiao turned his right palm down, and the ground beside him cracked open, revealing a huge, pitch-black sword that seemed to be formed from ink. He then grasped it in his hand. He raised the sword high with both hands, facing the crowd in a slashing motion. Dao Lan's expression changed, and she said quickly in a deep voice, "Be careful. Although we haven't seen that guy for 500 years, he is extremely powerful." No sooner had he finished speaking than Guang Zhao's sword slashed downwards fiercely. Shadow Ember. Suddenly, streams of black, ink-like substance burst forth from the sword's edge, covering the sky and raining down on the crowd. Some Lunarian warriors raised their weapons to defend themselves, but their supernatural shields were mercilessly pierced, and then the ink was splashed all over them. In an instant, their bodies were rapidly dyed, and any part that came into contact with them was instantly two-dimensionalized, turning into something like a piece of paper. Spatial abilities. Capable of compressing dimensions. Zhang Yi recognized the other party's ability at a glance. As a top-tier space-type ability user, he knew all too well how terrifying powerful space-type ability users could be. Even he struggled to compress dimensions. King Arthur and his companions looked grim as they drew their weapons and unleashed their attacks to defend against the overwhelming onslaught. Zhang Yi's gaze was calm as he opened a dimensional gate in front of him. When the black ink touched the dimensional gate, it rippled like raindrops falling into a lake. His dimensional gate has been invaded. The greatest threat to other dimensions, besides the irresistible causal weapons, is the ability of other space-based entities. Standing atop the mountain peak, Mad Owl looked down at the crowd below. Seeing their desperate defense and the many moon warriors reduced to two-dimensional paper figures, his face remained expressionless. But when his eyes met Zhang Yi's, his expression changed. "My power didn't even manage to corrupt your strength." Zhang Yi's lips curled into a slight smile. The dimensional gate is inherently a two-dimensional ability. You can't possibly reduce it to one dimension, can you? Unless you're a god. Dear viewers, thanks for staying with me. We'll try to get you more updates. Please like and subscribe and share the video with your friends. Love you all.